We'll start this meeting by singing an opening song, I Am a Child of God. After which we'll have an opening prayer by Sherry Norberg.
Father in heaven, as we're gathered here today to grieve the loss of Eve, and also to celebrate his life, and the kind person that he was, we pray for comfort and peace, knowing that he is at peace and away from his struggles, reuniting with loved ones. We are grateful for the strength that comes from being together, for relying on one another. We pray as we go forward, we will reach out to those that need us most, and honor you by being kind, loving, and seeing the world in the beautiful way that you always did. grateful that I love and comfort. And we thank you in Jesus Christ.
We'll go ahead and proceed as outlined in the program. We'll first hear from Stephen Norberg, Eric's brother, then Eric Foss, my long friend. We'll hear the piano medley special music number by Button. And then we'll also hear from Adam Norberg, his nephew, and then we'll hear from Mike, his brother.
I'm not sure it's a good idea to get your own son's service, but I think Eric was born July 3rd, 1968 in Mesa, Arizona. He was the third of three golden boys. He grew up in Tempe, Arizona. He was a delightful child. He had an adorable grin, full of energy and fun. Yeah. It was why they're probably sick. It was Shirley. I call it his David on the K hair, because of David on the K. He grew up following Scott and Mike, who were exceptionally gifted athletes. When Eric was a perfectly good athlete, but closer to the norm, was not particularly easy. But Eric found his own place in the sun by discovering his intelligence and by discovering his creative thinking and writing. He was accepted to only 5 the year he applied into ASU's creative master's program in creative writing. He declined that, but it shows what a talent that he had. Eric was a very hard worker. He went on a mission to Tokyo South in Japan, and his mission president said he worked harder than almost any other elder in learning the language and learning the scriptures and doing missionary work. He was an avid reader. His library that he had in his little apartment just was, the breadth that it covered was amazing. Although many people read James Joyce, I think few people understand him, especially his later works. But Eric really liked James Joyce. In fact, when he lived in Paris with Missy, his wife, Missy gifted him with a month in Dublin because of Eric's great fondness for James Joyce. Eric was an avid walker. When he was well, he would routinely walk 6 to 8 miles a day on the canals of Mesa. On June 4th of this year, he walked 14 miles. And he texted me a message that said, 14 on the 14th. People remembered him greeting them as he passed by on the canal. He would find many interesting things to photograph as he walked along. And he also would collect the lots, interesting lots. He just, little bulbs of lots in his apartment, and he'd like to pass those out to us too. Eric was a very good and loyal friend. Even though his marriage to Melissa did not endure, their friendship did. And he came to his apartment just the other day. She was an artist and he was a writer. And they were really a very good match in many ways. And she came to his apartment the other day and took down some of the artwork that he kept up in his apartment all these years. He and Scottson had a great friends, and they walked routinely and had a rare sharing of hearts as they walked and talked since Adam returned to Mesa after he went to medical school at UCLA. beginning in their preschool years, he has this friendship with Eric Foss, who we're going to hear from today. On the BYU campus, they were known as the two Erics. He had enjoyed his friendship with Mark Reed and took pride in the work he did for Mark at the Hararusa. So he enjoyed the people that he volunteered with. He loved his cats. And the many years that he lived alone, his cats were his boon companions. He had one cat they had for years, and they died. He was just bereft. We even had that cat cremated so he could keep that cat with him, and that cat remains are in the pocket. He loved Paris. He and Melissa lived there for 2 years during their marriage. And then after they were not married any longer, he returned to live there 2 more years on his own. He also loved Manhattan, and he and Melissa lived there 2 years. And as I said, he loved Dublin. And Sharon and I took our first trip to Paris when they were living there. And also when Mike and Darce and Eric and it was Sharon and I, Mike and Darce and Eric, we took a trip to Scandinavia together. And then Eric went with Mike, Eric went with Sharon and me to Alberta, which was another really memorable trip that we had. Eric was a writer, a reader, a thinker, an explorer of ideas. He adored his older brothers. He thought that Mike could do almost anything. He greatly enjoyed his nieces and nephews. He loved his interactions with them and loved watching them grow. Among his treasured experience was the 4th of July weekends that we spent at Hotel down in California. First, it was just our family, and over the years, getting into the Tuckers and the Harrises. And for years, that we even had a flag that Lori made, the Tucker, Norberg, and the Harrises. Those are treasured memories. Eric was a great and faithful friend to his staff, particularly during the last year of Jaren's life. And Eric always wished that he could have been with Mike to spend that last year at Jaren's earthly life with him. Eric has been a great friend to me, particularly since Jaren's been gone. I had surgery about a year ago, and Eric, for a week, he slept on the couch in my apartment while I healed and took care of me. I'm not a great artist, but I was taking this little art class, and he took an interest in it and encouraged me in that. We had countless lunches together. We ran errands together. We went to the car wash together, just those little everyday things that you do. Eric wouldn't step on a bike. He was essentially good and kind. He was intelligent and talented. There are no words to express how much I love him and how much I will miss him. He's now in the companionship of Sharon and Scott. He's in the next stage of his eternal journey, unencumbered by the dreadful disease that took his life. May light perpetual shine upon him, my son. This is my prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I've got like 4 pages of memories. that I'm not gonna get through. There's just so many things that could be talked about. You know, I'm not gonna get to talking about things like Scott and Jared and Paris and Solomon Paris. Chief Doors brothers, the number 21. I don't have to worry as much as I would like to. What I want to share with you is a few things that I had a front row seat to that maybe you didn't. The song got me. With the phrase parents kind and dear. There'll be something there for the last one. One of the hallmarks of Norberg's home is kindness. That privilege of being raised by a kind and loving family, and then going 8 doors down the street and having all of those principles, all of that love, all of that encouragement reinforced on a daily basis, almost daily basis. And you know, when I thought this week about those times and just how simple and beautiful they were, you know, I think about the little dog Sundance. You know, and eventually Cassidy, who was supposed to be picking a litter, but she never really grew into that. We never figured that out. And then Mike's cat Zippy, like we never, what was Zippy thinking? We were just doing it. But there were just such simple, beautiful times. And I remember the tenderness of the hearts of the universe. And Eric's, I think, was the most tender. And I think that was actually a part of his burden, is the way he saw the world, the beauty in it, and how it was, you know, the kind of evil and the horrors were so close by and intermingled. And he worked, I think, throughout his life trying to reconcile those things. Norberg's eventually moved to Norberg, which was maybe a mile and a half away. And I want to share a couple of experiences that happened there that I think shaped Eric's life. If you can picture the living room, the chickering pianos in the corner, it's a deep shag carpet. In fact, if you slept over the weekends, you had to make the carpet. And so there's a big bullseye carpet on the wall. And then there's these couches in the corner in front of the window that looked out of the pool, kind of elevating and colorful. That was one of the places there, like, I remember sitting on the couch and reading and writing. It's just unique penmanship. And I remember one of the books that Eric first read that he kind of involved me in. It's sort of Shema. It's this kind of pocket-like journey of elves and dwarves and, you know, humankind. It was like 400 pages, and he was reading it. He was telling me his stories, and so I started reading it. I was just captivated, you know, staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning reading this book. When we finished the book, Eric said, "Let's write the book." Well, my dad was a professor, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, books can be written." And when we started to write this book together, and we wrote a chapter of this epic journey of these, you know, humankind and elves and stuff. I was pretty artistic, so I was kind of the illustrator, you know, and, you know, sounding board. Eric wrote the chapter really, and it was pretty good. We wrote it on that, was it a K-Pro computer, or just a little, you know, it must have been like freshman year, because it's tight, but I don't remember. I did my time with and stuff, but that was the seed there was a seed planted in that experience. And then a couple of years later, Jared and Dina took us to Linda's Bob. And wow, we just never seen anything else. And it had such an impact on us. The next day, we got up and we took our savings down to Great Gamage and we bought a ticket to the matinee. And we were just blown away by this epic story. And I think that's where Eric really first tried to, where he like it resonated, like that conflict and Javert's struggle to resolve that. And just how do you reconcile these worlds? And I feel like that was a lot of what Eric's journey was. And I think we actually went back that night. And then Eric bought the book. That was a little beyond me. It's like 1,000 pages. But he would show me, look at this. Look how Victor Hugo wrote this. Do you remember that scene? And this is how it's actually described. And these seeds were growing. And this quest for, looking underneath, or peeling back the layers, and looking underneath to see where the beauty is. It was blossoming. There's a book that is a favorite of mine by Ralph Waldo Emerson, the Essays on Self-Reliance. And he still paraphrase a section. He says, man should learn to detect and appreciate that light that flashes within, more than luster and firmament or bars and sages. But he doesn't. It doesn't, because that light is his own thought. It's dismissed. I'm not dismissing that light. It's growing. Eric could have done so many things. When he came back from Japan, there was talk of him going to work at the Bank of Boston, or all these, she was the interpreter from the CEO of the Kamuda company, or some jet, like one of the largest companies in the world, with his personal interpreter in town. And it was like, Eric, you got the golden ticket, you can do all these things, you're brilliant. And he didn't want it. What he wanted was to follow that light that was flashing from within, that told him that he could create something just as beautiful as what these other authors were creating. And he spent 30 years doing that. Think about that. He was just interested in that. He spent 30 years. One of my first thoughts was, are we going to have access to Eric's work? Let me tell you what I think now. If you want to read what Eric he's written it in our hearts. What Eric was writing was how to look at beauty, how to dissect and understand beauty, and how to appreciate it. We've all seen his photos. How he can look into the corner of the canal and see the beautiful movements of the water and share those with us that would walk right by. Try treating the person that you're talking to at the moment like they're the most important person in the world. Consider your life. Ask yourself, what's important to me? Is that what I want it to be? Journal. Four things that are beautiful. That's where Find the wisdom. I pray that God will rest his sweet soul. I have the strong feeling that Eric is experiencing whatever he's experiencing now, the same wonder and honesty that he experienced his life. And I love that. I said this once before, that I love you.
grateful for the chance to share some memories of Eve. Some of my earliest memories with Eve, and recurring memory of Eve, was watching sports with him, and my grandpa, on their couch. And usually those sporting events involved them yelling at the TV screen a lot, whether they were arguing with the referee or the play by the player or the boss call by the coach, or just because they didn't like the announcer. They would get pretty heated and yelling and passionate about their sports. They were big fans and great spectators to watch sports with. I have many memories with that, including probably learning some of my first curse words there, watching Monday Night Football, much to Granny's dismay. Another dear memory from when I was younger, at 12 years old, for my birthday, Uncle E. Sorry. He gave me the Lord of the Rings set. The Hobbit book. I wasn't familiar with my mom, obviously, as Eric mentioned, he loved fantasy stories and that genre of books and movies. I remember how excited he was to share it with me and to get me into it. I wasn't as big of a reader as him, but I did have a book report on the Hobbit shortly after. And he caught wind of that. And so he said, I'm gonna read it with you and I'll write out these summaries and commentary and books, and he sent me letters at the time of each chapter and how to summary and everything. I never had the heart to tell him I never finished the book. But I did an A+. Thanks to his commentary and into the psychology of Bobo back and speak. Then when I was 17, it would have been probably 20 years ago this last week, we shared a room at the Hotel Del, which I don't know if that was a great idea. At the time I was 17, I think he was 35, and we were both single male Norberg at the Del. And you'd think that the main influence he had is encouraging me or teaching me how to go talk to girls on the beach. But the thing that stood out to me was on the car ride there, just me and him in the car that year. And I remember I was starting to think about maybe going on a mission. He talked for hours about his mission experience. I don't think I'd ever heard anybody have so much appreciation and love for their experience that he did. He loved the people and the country and the language, and he had a great deal of pride for what he accomplished. And that was very instrumental. I think it motivated me, even though I knew at the time he wasn't religious or going to church, but it was a great inspiration to me. And like years later, when I got called to speak Mandarin Chinese on my mission, I remember he's really excited that another Norberg served at an ancient mission. But really, where my deepest memories of Eve are from our walks. As Randy mentioned, walking was a big part of Eve's life. And I walked with him regularly. And a few months ago, when we were walking, we tried to figure out when we started walking together. And I think it was probably in either 2009 or 10, when we were still living at the loft near the country club. And I don't remember what started, but we met up there at the canals and we would walk. We walked sporadically until I moved to LA, and then was there for 8 years. We'd come back for vacations and holidays, and we walked sporadically with him. And then 4 years ago, moving back just up Val Vista from here, from his apartment, we'd walk more regularly. And in 2022, we set out the goal to try to walk 52 times, once a week, for the whole year. He was going to walk anyways, but he liked the getting together there, and we've only made it to 30 out of 52 weeks last year. But it was still something we were proud of. And we walk and just talk along the canals. We meet right here, just next to the building on the canal that runs underneath the university. We either walk a 10K to the south or 10K loop to the front. He knew every leg, how many miles or kilometers it was to each section, and how we go here, it's gonna take an extra 20 minutes, you sure? You always had really detailed planned out numbers, and there was significance to every little loop and his favorite loops and everything. But, you know, many people would say, oh, it's really nice of you that you did that for E, and you must be meaningful to him, but it really became a highlight for me each week. I don't know what my intention was when we started walking, but I think it was a way to connect. I definitely felt the closest to my dad and him when he came to me. I'm sure I was trying to help him, but I think he helped me just as much. And we talked about our hopes and goals and also our fears and our failures. It was always apparent when he wasn't doing well because there would be a break in our walks. Those are tough to see when you come out to hear his not only his struggles and the pain he went through, but the resolve and the desire to try to do better and to make changes. He always had a great way of reminding ourselves to be kind to ourselves. We both had have a tendency to be very hard on ourselves. But as he could, he had always these really funny, sarcastic, and self-deprecating jokes he'd tell about the situation that would make us laugh as hard as we were laugh, kind of lighten things up. And our walks weren't always serious. There were a lot of times we were just talking about childhood memories or Norberg family memories, experiences. Our favorite TV shows that we were watching at the time. We love to watch some of the same shows together in the last couple of years and talk about where we were on the episodes and what we liked. He loved talking about sports. He was a huge fan of, we were both huge fans of the NFL and whatever sport. Everyone was playing at the time. Always amazed at how interested he was about life. As we said, he had a great eye for artistic things. We take pictures. We didn't take many pictures in our walks. I think he did most of that when he was by himself. But every time we walk, he always made sure to take a selfie of the two of us every single walk. Obviously, when you're walking on a weekly basis, I kind of wanted to tell me we weren't changing very much each week. We both looked equally bad every single week, and early in the morning, there wasn't much going on. But we could take the pictures, and while we'd still be talking and walking, you could tell he was kind of editing or doing his way to get a certain photo he wanted to find just the right look. And then he'd kind of make a stop, say, yeah, wait a second. I want to see this picture of my mom. I know it makes her happy to see us watching together. That Maxim loved her granny. Loved his mother. He was grateful for the things she was. As I struggled to try to come up with memories from my time with them, I started to summarize things and all the different thoughts and things. And so the quote that came to my mind was a quote that's an Norberg family favorite that was often, I think, attributed to Jaron because we quoted so often around the family, but it was actually by Maya Angelou, but it is his name. The quote says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And he made me feel okay. He made me feel like I was always enough. And I could just be myself. He believed in me, and I believed in you too. I'm gonna miss him a lot. Really wish we were Good walk this morning. I say that, thank Jesus Christ, amen. Amen.
I thought I was gonna be glad that I didn't have to follow Clyde and then. I just first want to say thank you to everyone for the outpouring, love and support for our family that we have felt. It's been awesome for us, very hard time. I think the things that were said, I guess, going last, I can just say that was kind of covered. I don't need to carry on, but there are a few things that I felt that have been rolling around in my mind as I've struggled with this a lot. And as Adam has been mentioned, Eric was into numbers, had things that were significant to him. And so I thought I'm gonna break my talk into 3 E parts, 3 words. The first is kind of the enigma that was Eric. Being his friend or his family member was awesome, but it was also sometimes. His struggle with this alcoholism was really hard. It was hard for us. It was hard for him. He never lost hope that he might get better. Even at times if we may have felt like we weren't sure. And I think that's hard. I think that's what the addiction does. It robs you of that time, robs you of those memories that you might otherwise feel like you could make. And it was hard with Eric because there would be these big gaps in having him be a meaningful part of our lives. And be angry and frustrated and hurt all at the same time, meanwhile, feeling like there was something more that we could or should be doing. I was listening to somebody this week just said it kind of was maybe our job is just to do what we can. And I know, looking out of those of you that knew Eric and reached out to him in your own ways, that you did what you could. I see so many faces of people that were meaningful to him. And I know that it's a reminder to myself of that. I did feel like just to kind of reach out that morning, I had gone for a ride. We hadn't heard from Eric for about 4 or 5 days, which is not unusual. This was a pattern. And so I talked to my mom, was the last time to talk to Eric. And we kind of over the last couple of years resolved that we need to kind of let it play out. And this is part of it. But Eric has been doing better. He's been working, doing some things for Mark. He had some first couple wins that he's had for a while, public wins. What Eric said, I think is really true. I don't know that Eric viewed wins like he did. I went for a ride with Jim. I told him that I was going to be checking on Eric because we hadn't heard from him. As I was standing there, Mark called and was following up on last week and asked Mark if he had heard from Eric. He said it's been a while. It's been at least a week or 2. And it just started to feel really heavy inside. And I called Doris, which I normally don't do if I'm going to go check on Eric. But I said, hey, would you mind just coming and being there with me? And she met me there. And I always knock on the door and then open it with the key that he had. And called his name.
And it was like he was kneeling in the relaxed back chair, like he had with this face kneeling on it. Yes. I knew it was God. No sign of struggle, nothing, just like that's, we just fired and left. And one it was brutally sad, I wanted to share that because the Garrett did fight, the Garrett did try, and really try and make the most out of his life. Some of my memories of Eric, the ones that will be shared, this is my second part. Whereas if it hadn't been discussed, and trying to go on to a lighter topic, but his favorite food was Tabasco sauce. That was always was their Tabasco. He and Darth would have an ongoing battle every time that he was come eat, because there's Tabasco sauce. He liked his food so hot. I one time shared a chicken bowl with him. I couldn't eat it. It was insanely hot, but he loved that. He had all these little nicknames growing up. Started out with Binky because we made fun of him because he had a binky and he was protected as his youngest brother. But then we called him Banco Bits. He had all these things all the way going through E-Filer, E-Master Flash. And then it just became E, who we knew and loved and had these memories and these shared experiences. I know a couple of his college roommates or friends are here in addition that know how fun Eric could be when he was on his game and who he was. I have memories of I was left in charge of Eric. Scott was gone because I don't know why I was left in charge. Probably not a good idea, but I was supposed to watch out for E. And I did something that made him want to, he said, I'm running away. And I'm like, fine, man. And after about an hour, I didn't know where he was. And I was like, oh, that's the problem. But it was the first time. And I really missed him. And I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if he was okay. Didn't know that was going to be such a picture on drop flight. I can distinctly remember that. I remember I was sharing the other day crashing the field, Miami versus Penn State. I don't know if that was with you, Eric, but rooting for Miami and then the Penn State one going on the field, acting like for Penn State fans, playing on TV. Game won the World Series. My dad got next five, but he felt like that was too much hard for him, so Eric drove it for that. Cody going to the game. I had had hernia surgery or something, so I had a bag of ice in my lap, and we're driving around the curve over there on the 2 or 10 to get to Phoenix. And I said, Eric, I'm like, dude, why don't you show us what this thing's got? Or you look at your telling you to show us the power. Anyway, he stepped on it and it ended up, but there was another trouble policeman right behind us blocking this whole thing. Pulled us over at 125. And they pulled me out of the car and slammed me. We're in the car and are shaking because they have in the handcuffs. We got in the car. And Eric, he was just, but anyway. It's funny for us out there. We said, we're just trying to get the game one of the World Series. Hope you'd like to get out of prison before game 7. Being his roommate in college and the River Brother was cool. I love that. Trips that we take to New York. My mom mentioned they lived in New York. I always think it was cool. They rented Paul Rudd's apartment after he left. And so they were the next occupants in that Bleecker Street. And Darcy and I would go out and visit them. They had a rat that would come out in the apartment. We named it Rufus and ended up giving it a Beanie Baby rat for later. He was always excited to be with you once you were there. You always felt the warmth and the happiness of that being with him.
There were some pictures out there, Grand Taylor, we went on a rim to rim thing with Eric, and that's that picture with him and the staff, and, I'll never forget that trip, it was so nice. And Grant and I called his staff the Chuck Gandalf, staff of powers, that's going through this. One of the hottest days, I think, in April that we went, which is not wise. Callan talked about, I do think I want to mention his office, his apartment was a bit of a mess, but his office was always separate and different and nice. And the artwork that you've seen is from Melissa. But his office was kind of like his laboratory, his temple, his retreat, kind of like a lair. And I always liked feeling, knowing he was creating in there, and that was about the place for him. Talked about the movies and the sports, it's just, I watch Wimbledon, I think of, 4th of July, I think of the times cursing at City for no reason. He was so mad at Bruce Brown for the Sun, the Nuggets. I think, what are we doing? All this, that, a lot. Those are just some of the memories. The last thing I want to say is just that this journey does continue, and I'm hopeful. I haven't had this feeling come over me of like that I can see this reunion in heaven yet. I'm hoping that I'll feel some more of that with the things that were shared today and what Eric said about heaven being better. I believe that. I believe that. I love the fact that my dad and Scott would be there. He loves Scott. My dad. They were his biggest fans, besides my mom, and he loved you, Mom, so much. He did struggle. He struggled with his own disappointment in himself, his own recognition of his failings and shortcomings. But who he was in that end was not who he is or will be. I believe that he's now in a better place to experience some of these things in life. And in this life that continues, not just here, it's just not here. I put on the back of the program, or the music, is a song from Pearl Jam called Just Breathe. I watched it, to look at it, it's the lyrics twice, but my mind hasn't been in the right place, and I figured, oh, it's a mess. It's kind of like Eric's life, and there's numerology, there's two facility right number 2, and one who cares, it'll work. But it's in that messiness. That I think for myself, I see a way through. And maybe some of the meaning, some of the things that were written upon my heart from Eric. Nathan, my son, downloaded all his writings. We hoped to be able to find some. But what was written upon my heart is to be kind to yourself, to ourselves. Try and see out those better paths that we all know that we would like to be on, but for one reason or another, we're not, and it's okay. It's okay. But to try and make those strides every day and to reconcile and see in Eric's life the mess of our own and still be okay to love and accept ourselves. And I think it is for all of us to do what we can, or who we can, while we can. And until we can't. And unfortunately, there we can't anymore. But we can send that to others that need it and deserve it just as much, and that may be ourselves. I love him. I will miss all the little things I also put around my home, and I think, yeah, I need to get rid of some of these rocks. There's some rocks back there that are collected. If you want, please take one as a memory of him, to remember to find that beauty in others in life that can't be seen through. I love you, Dee, and I'll see you on the other side of the biggest thing. This kind of thing.
Really like to thank for those who participated today, especially the sweet memories from the families and the friends. You know, the beauty that was shared. Eric was born into a really, really special family. Tina and Jaron, amazing couple. Mark, accomplished, gifted, ambitious, generous, loving, kind. These things trickle down through all the brothers, through Scott, through Mike, and certainly through Eric. Eric, as we know, was a very, very deep thinker. He struggled with his faith. I think many that are deep thinkers that are a little more complex individuals struggle with faith. It's okay. It's okay. My last interaction with Eric was just a few weeks ago on a Sunday evening at our home to get together. And it was really great to see him. He looked terrific. And we had a pleasant conversation. And one of the things that he shared at that time with me was that he was just listening to the Book of Mormon again on as he walked. And he said, "Oh, don't get any ideas, Todd." But we chuckled and joked a little bit about that. But he had shared that also with Lori. And my takeaway from that is, why would he do that? It's because he does have a glimmer of faith and a glimmer of hope in those things. When we had the opportunity as friends and family to go over there and pack up some of his belongings, with his library of many very sophisticated pieces of literature and his research, etc., there was just as many books about God, about Christ. Duplications of a lot of those things. And then another sign and evidence that he did believe. We are blessed to know that we were spirit children before this life. And Eric was so blessed to be a part of Dean and Jaren's family. Life is an adventure. We're here to learn, to have joy, to make mistakes, to have heartache. Eric experienced those things. We know that we will live again. We know that through the atonement of Jesus Christ, that we will live again. Tina, you were the perfect mom for Eric. He loved you. Your kindness, your service. Mike, you were a perfect brother for Eric also. You did the very best. Your dedication, your discipline, your example, your service, your kindness. He appreciated it. And I do know, like it's been shared, that where Eric is today is with Jared, with Scott, with Randy Norberg, with other loved ones. And I say something, we'll conclude the services today by singing God Be With You to the meeting. After which we'll have a closing prayer by Darcy. One verse only in the closing.
Father in heaven, before you close of this morning's prayer and all of our gifts and people for the spirit that's been here. So grateful for the speakers. Thoughts and memories, giving us more insight. It's a great story. I'm so grateful for almost the encouraged today, also reached out, express their love. My burdens and something I'm grateful for that. I how that gives to us and we can hold on to those memories and some at home to go further, please watch over students. This is a state that we go for activities and safety and that I love and the peace that surrounds us. Their prayers and the sun to the rest.